Tonight, holiday opening.
We are just asking that it be done safely.
America's beaches and businesses start inviting customers back through their doors as all 50 states move to reopen.
And we're going to put out the fires. We're not going to close the country.
The president says the country's back to business for good. This as the CDC updates its take on the spread of the virus. Plus,
I said I want the churches to open.
New guidance for churches on allowing in-person worship services. And a decades-long Memorial Day tradition at Arlington National Cemetery, even though it's closed during the pandemic. All this and more tonight on Faith Nation. Defiant churches that were planning to reopen this weekend get a major boost from the White House. Welcome to Faith Nation. I'm John Jessup. Jenna Browder has the night off. Well, tonight, the president seemingly staging a fight with governors over guidelines to reopen churches, saying all 50 states have begun easing restrictions, so houses of worship should follow suit. Let's go to CBN White House correspondent Ben Kennedy. He has tonight's top story. Ben?
Well, John, turns out 24 states have already allowed churches to reopen with very strict restrictions, limiting how many people are allowed inside, social distancing. But President Trump today said that all houses of worship are considered essential and should open now.
I call upon governors to allow our churches and places of worship to open right now.
As the country reopens, places of worship have been left on the sidelines in most states, a move President Trump aims to change.
Some governors have deemed liquor stores and abortion clinics as essential, but have left out churches and other houses of worship. It's not right. So I'm correcting this injustice.
Trump deems church essential and threatens to override the governors if they keep them closed. This as new questions surfaced about hydroxychloroquine, the anti-malaria drug President Trump touted as a possible game-changer treatment for COVID-19. A new study by Medical Journal reveals it's linked to a much higher risk of death in coronavirus patients. To top that, the FDA has put the onus on healthcare professionals when it comes to hydroxychloroquine, warning against using it outside hospitals or clinical trials because it could cause heart problems. Despite the warnings, Trump has been taking hydroxychloroquine for nearly 2 weeks. He said White House doctor Sean Coley determined the potential benefit from the drug outweighed the relative risk. This as medical experts warn of a possible second wave as states continue to ease social distancing and restrictions this holiday weekend.
Our healthcare system is at a critical point. Right now, if you're from Montgomery and you need an ICU bed, you're in trouble.
Whether it's an ember or a flame, we're going to put it out. But we're not closing our country.
Now, contradicting the commander-in-chief, CDC Director Robert Redfield is not ruling out the possibility of a second lockdown if there is, in fact, a second major spike in cases. John?
All right, CBN White House correspondent Ben Kennedy. Thanks, Ben. Well, as we head into Memorial Day weekend, a majority of Americans are still uneasy with the idea of walking into newly reopened businesses. For many, the traditional summer vacation is on hold, with airline and hotel bookings at seasonal lows and theme parks and other attractions still off limits due to health concerns over the coronavirus pandemic. Only 1 in 3 Americans say they're comfortable visiting non-essential local businesses, according to a new survey by Bankrate. This as 44% of households confirm the outbreak has impacted their spending ability, with 1 in 5 households reporting a layoff or furlough, and 16% saying they're experiencing a reduced pay. Well, joining me now for more on that survey is Mark Hamrick, Senior Economic Analyst at Bankrate. Mark, it's always great to see you. Bankrate is calling this a dual-edged crisis. In what ways is this unlike anything we've seen before?
Well, I think our intuition tells us that it is, and the data points that way as well. John, good to be with you. Thank you. Only 1 in 3 Americans feels comfortable in going to visit non-essential local businesses as soon as officials give them the go-ahead to do so. In other words, lifting those restrictions. So it's obvious that there is this sense of risk to health and life. And the data that you pointed out there in the lead-in to talk about the fact that, so many Americans have been hurt by the loss of income, the loss of employment, reduction in hours worked. There's, on the one hand, the willingness or lack thereof to go out and engage in the environment as we would have in the past because of the fear of the health problem. But then there's also the capability to spend, and that has been hurt, affecting 4 in 10 households in the United States.
You know, one thing that is interesting that you all found in your survey, perhaps unsurprisingly, is the deep political divide. Can you tell us more about that?
Yes. So 55% of Americans said that businesses are being opened up too early. However, Democrats were much more predisposed to have that opinion. Roughly 3 in 4 believe that this is happening too soon. Yet only about 1 in 3 Republicans feel that way. And so I suppose during this time when there is such a large political divide, this dramatic situation, the dual crisis that we spoke of, should be no exception.
Mark, even when businesses do reopen, Americans are planning fewer in-person visits to stores. How is that going to affect businesses?
Well, you know, so our survey did find that roughly 4 in 10 Americans believe that they will shop less in the immediate future than they would have in the past. And so think about the fact that when we talk about, let's say, company earnings or consumer spending, a decline of as much as 5% during normal times would be seen as a dramatic decline. And so we've already seen the decline in retail sales very recently. And it's worth noting that we expect a decline in the current quarter of GDP of about 11%, annualized 40%, but 11 is the number that I think is more appropriate. So we have to get through this. And, you know, I think as Americans, we all have faith, we all have optimism, but also needs to be tinged with some realism. And where exactly we have to draw that line, I guess it's ultimately up to all of us to make that decision, and we'll look back on this time and wonder whether we made the right decisions.
Mark, final question with about a half minute left. That fear around visiting businesses does not bode well for quick economic recovery. Today, Coronavirus Task Force Dr. Anthony Fauci said keeping the economy closed too long could cause irreparable damage. What's your take on that?
I think there's agreement on that point. Obviously, though, the other debate that is still ongoing is what might we need to do if we're too eager to go out. I think the reality is that we're facing a variety of situations all across the country, and state officials, regulators, individuals, and businesses are all having to make these decisions essentially on their own, but with guidance.
All right, Mark Hamrick with Bankrate, thank you so much for being with us. Have a great weekend.
You do the same. Thank you, John.
Well, in these unprecedented hard times, churches around the country are stepping up to provide assistance and food to those in need. Among them, Emmanuel Presbyterian Church, a mainstay in the Koreatown district of Los Angeles for the past 100 years. Before the coronavirus, the church held a food bank once a week. But now, to keep up with demand, it serves people 6 days a week.
Not only are we giving a tangible resource to the community, but we're now coming to be kind of a community for the community. We've gotten to know the folks who need us. There's a certain group of folks that have lost jobs, or they've gone from 2 incomes to 1 income households, and they need the extra help. And so we've gotten to know them. We know some of them by name, and just giving a simple God bless you, good to see you again, it goes a long way for that just connection that we need during this time.
And joining us now is Mike Morgan, Associate Pastor of Outreach at Bel Air Church. Mike, thank you for being with us. Tell us more about the people who are coming to find help from Emmanuel Presbyterian. I got to imagine a lot of these people just 2 months ago did have jobs.
That's right, John. You know, it's amazing what took place in such a short amount of time. You know, dual income families in Los Angeles trying to make ends meet, trying to pay rent. Imagine losing one of those incomes. You just can't make that money stretch far enough. And so they find themselves in lines like these. And, you know, you and I might have a support network that we can lean back on, but some families in our community don't have that support network. And so that's where the church gets to be the church. And so Emmanuel Pres got to lean into this season and show up in their community in a really significant way.
It's always meaningful to see churches step up like that. To go, though, from 1 day a week to 6 is pretty drastic. How are you able to pull that off financially and logistically?
Well, Pastor Andy's, I was sharing this same sentiment, like, how are you guys making these ends meet? And they are really relying on God. Every day is a new day. Some days, their warehouse is empty, and other days it's full. And it's really the system of churches that are coming alongside them in this season saying, we want to support you. We believe in what you're doing. How can we help? And so God continues to show up. It's like the 5 loaves of bread and 2 fishes scenario. God is feeding thousands of people out of just a little. It's amazing to see the churches working together.
Mike, explain the thinking about why you decided it was better to step up and support Emmanuel Presbyterian's mission rather than start your own similar ministry.
Both churches are uniquely placed in Los Angeles to serve. And the way in which Emmanuel is placed in the heart of Koreatown, serving like 250,000 people in their neighborhood, they are uniquely placed by God to serve in this way. Bel Air Church is up on a hill. It's hard to get to us. Even if we had a food pantry, it wouldn't be feasible for people actually to get there. And God actually blessed us recently with opportunity to be on KCOP Channel 13 in Los Angeles. And so we had this new platform. And so God gave this church this platform, and God gave another church an opportunity. We said, let's come together, and how can we bless you in the season? So we felt like this is our time to really come alongside them and support them.
Mike, you alluded to this earlier about there being times where sometimes you think there's not going to be enough to go around. I got to ask you, though, how has this encouraged your faith and the faith of others who participate in this ministry? How are you being strengthened at a time when so many feel like it's just hard to keep on keeping on?
That's a good question. I think that quarantine can't stop community. And I'm seeing it. I'm seeing the way in which communities are coming alongside one another. And, we read stories of miracles that took place in biblical times. And right now, in real time, we're seeing miracles taking place in Los Angeles. And the way in which God is moving, and we get to be a part of that. We get to join God in God's work. You can even see it in my face. I'm getting emotional even thinking about it, because it's so encouraging to see God at work, and that we get to be the church. The church has always been active, and we get to be active in our communities in ways that we might never have seen before.
Well, Mike, we really appreciate the work that you guys are doing. Commendable work, and really, really necessary at this time. Pastor Mike Morgan with Los Angeles Bel Air Church, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you, John.
Well, coming up, a reversal over posting CDC guidelines for churches. That and more when we return with our Faith Nation political panel next.
Come home to the sounds of Southern Gospel from CBN Radio. You'll enjoy a rich Southern blend of bluegrass, classic gospel, and Southern gospel favorites like the Gaithers, the Crab Family, and bluegrass sounds like Mountain Faith. So make yourself at home with the all-new CBN Southern Gospel, now available at cbnradio.com.
Meet the pastors who are preaching the gospel in a fresh, fearless way. I'm Roberto Torresadillo. Join me each week for Next Gen Voices and watch God transform a generation.
Prophecy thousands of years old.
We were called to be a light to the world.
Being fulfilled today. Discover how. Get to life. Call 1-800-700-7000.
We consider it our duty to reach out and help others around the world.
For a gift of $10 or more, you can own the acclaimed CBN documentary To Life. Just call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to cbn.com.
To treat a human, no matter what he is, which religious he have, which color he is. This is what I'm doing.
See how the people of Israel are fulfilling prophecy.
History is being written, and I want to be a part of it.
By sharing their knowledge.
In Africa, in Asia, in South America, in East Europe.
And their love.
This is how we work. This is us.
Get to life. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to cbn.com.
Well, Well, welcome back. Time now for our Friday Faith Nation political panel with Chief Political Analyst David Brody and Julia Manchester, political reporter at The Hill. Always great to see you both on a Friday. David, let's start with you. President Trump has designated churches as essential and is threatening governors who don't comply. Can you give us a little bit more color into what led to today's announcement? I know that he had a White House conference call with pastors earlier this week.
Yeah, look, John, he was getting an earful. That's the bottom line. He was reading the temperature in the room, and pastors were like, look, we're mad as heck, and we're not going to take it anymore. And so Donald Trump responded the way Donald Trump responds. And today at that press conference, it was very interesting. He made a statement. It was a drop the mic moment. He walked there. He was stern. He said, churches are going to open. That's it this weekend. And governors, I'm going to override whatever you're going to do. And then he walked away, no questions. It was a photo op for the ages, if you will. He was serious about it. Now, whether or not he can do that constitutionally raises whole other issues. But he said he's going to go ahead and do it. And look, churches are trying to strike a middle ground here. They believe their First Amendment rights are being trampled. That's the bottom line.
Right. Well, Julia, along those lines, this comes after the White House put the brakes on the CDC's original broader recommendations, which did include guidance on churches. What do you make of the president's decision to make a public statement specifically on churches as opposed to any of the other guidelines that were previously released?
Right. I think to David's point, he was facing a lot of pressure from key parts of his base. Remember, conservative Christians and evangelicals are a major part of President Trump's political base. And we've seen that with a lot of his messaging on the coronavirus. And I'm not saying it's all been political, but there has definitely been some political maneuvering going on right now. Lots of messaging about the economy. We're seeing now churches. These are things that are very important to his base, and they want to see him messaging on that and how this pandemic impacts, their daily lives. And we've been seeing that, with, fiscal conservatives and maybe conservative Christians, these are things that they want to hear. So President Trump was made a very, I think if you're his base, you would say he made a very good public relations move by addressing it today and really making that statement. But it does definitely further divide him from a lot of these Democratic governors, whether it's Andy Beshear, Gavin Newsom, or Andrew Cuomo, with kind of who gets to decide these things in the middle of the pandemic as we're trying to get on the other side of it.
David, do you want to jump in here?
Yeah, I want to say a quick thing. Can we just set the record straight? This isn't the wild, wild west church circuit out there, okay? I mean, I've done a lot of reporting on this specifically about the reopening of churches. Let's understand what's going on. Churches are saying, come back in, come as you are, if you will. Oh, come as you are, but sit with your family. Social distancing, number one. Number two, we're going to dismiss you row by row. We're going to be smart. And oh, by the way, if you're elderly or you have a pre-existing condition or something along those lines, don't come to church, watch it online. So this is not churches being stupid. And I think a lot of times the media sees, oh, churches, what are they doing? They're putting everybody at risk. No, they're trying to be smart and strike a middle ground. John, I think that's very important, something that's missed in the conversation, but you'll get it here at Faith Nation.
To 2020, thank you, David, on that. Julia, Joe Biden's interview with the host of a popular radio show is getting a lot of attention on the heels of a great Fox News poll that showed him leading President Trump. However, Biden told the host he had a problem, if the host, rather, had a problem deciding between him and President Trump. Essentially, he wasn't black. How much damage did he do with that remark today?
I think that was obviously a remark that didn't go over well with a lot of people, and he gave Republicans a lot of material. I mean, you have had a lot of President Trump's more prominent African-American supporters, such as Senator Tim Scott from South Carolina, essentially really going after Biden on the offensive here. I think it was a major, major gaffe. Now, do I think that will cost him the entire African-American vote? No, probably not. However, I think this is a period of very awkward gaffes that Biden has made throughout this campaign, and it's giving more material to the Trump campaign. Earlier this week, the Trump campaign launched this truth over facts campaign, kind of mockery of something Biden has said in the past. And it's
Julia, sorry.
Oh,
sorry to cut you off, but we're out of time. Thank you. You guys always have riveting things to say. So, Julia, David, thanks for your time. Have a great weekend, and we'll be right back.
Too often, we carry baggage from our past. You know what it's like. It affects everything and everyone in our lives. It's always there, weighing us down and keeping us from achieving true happiness. But do you know God never meant for us to be trapped in the past? You can be free of your baggage. Learn how God's forgiveness leads to changed lives and new beginnings. Call the 700 Club.
I'm Ephraim Graham, and this is Studio 5. Cruise with me as I discover the good things happening in the world of music, sports, television, and movies.
The fact that Ryan Coogler was going to be directing the film, I knew that something special was going to happen.
We'll chat with artists at the forefront of entertainment and explore the connection between popular culture and faith.
I asked my pastor, I said, well, does that mean I'm supposed to be a preacher? He says, well, no, you already have a pulpit.
Watch Studio 5, Wednesday night at 9:30.
Tikkun Olam.
This is our nature as a country.
To make the world a better place.
Literally, we felt the earth shaking.
The Christian Broadcasting Network presents To Life, how Israeli volunteers are changing the world.
This film needs to be seen by everyone.
I was in tears.
Now you can own the inspiring documentary To Life on DVD.
There is blood on our hands if we know and we walk away.
I'm so grateful that this film was made.
To Life can be yours for a gift of $10 or more. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to CBN.com.
We know that every minute counts to save life.
It'll bless Israel, but it'll also bless all the friends of Israel.
Discover the untold story of how Israeli volunteers are making the world a better place. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to CBN.com to get your copy today.
Well, welcome back. Military suicides are up for the 5th straight year and reaching epidemic proportions. Joining us now, CBN National Security Correspondent Eric Phillips. Eric, it's important to note this trend affects not only current troops, but veterans and military family members.
Well, power through the battle. That is the mantra of physical military training. But what about the mind? I spoke with one woman who saw this firsthand when her husband took his own life at the height of his military career. And I spoke with some who believe they may be able to offer some solutions. Major John Ruwako served as a Marine Corps pilot for 15 years. A really good one, according to his wife, Kim, and the accolades from her don't stop there.
My husband was a really great dad and husband and a superior Marine and helicopter pilot, but he battled, depression and post-traumatic stress and unresolved trauma and grief.
A battle he lost in 2005.
I had, at the time, 2 boys. They were 8 and 10 years old. So really was thrown into this world of surviving a military suicide loss.
A social worker by profession, Kim often sensed subtle changes in her husband's behavior during phone calls.
I asked him directly if he was thinking about suicide, if he was feeling so badly that he was thinking about suicide, and he said, "I would never do that to you and the boys." And then he killed himself a couple hours later.
John became part of a growing statistic of active military and veterans who have committed suicide. The latest Pentagon research shows increases over the last 5 years, with more than 500 military suicides in 2018 alone. A Veterans Administration report indicates some 6,000 veteran suicides each year between 2005 and 2017.
Men slightly more likely to die by suicide, and women veterans twice as likely.
Dr. Heather Kelly is Director of Military and Veterans Health Policy at the American Psychological Association.
It's a complicated problem and a lot of different reasons for different people. About half of those military service members who die by suicide have never deployed, much less seen combat. So they're subject to life stress that has nothing to do with their service, just like the rest of us.
You don't know what the sun in your back is. The culture continues to be the biggest battle in suicide prevention within the military.
But there is help. After her husband's death, Ruwako started the Assistance Program for Survivors, or TAPS.
When there is a suicide, they're immediately connected to us, and so we're able to then reach out to those survivors, assess their needs, stabilize them with trauma, with mental health issues, with suicide risk, and then help them with suicide-specific issues like, how do you tell your children?
On the prevention side, the American Bible Society has rolled out the God Understands campaign to help service members who are battling depression and other mental health challenges. It consists of testimonies from people like Brian Flannery, who attempted suicide while in the Army.
Spoiler alert, I failed. So that emphasis behind the God Understands is for people to listen to other stories, to realize that they're not the only one that's feeling like they failed. They're not the only one that ever walked this journey by themselves.
Grosclose says social distancing only magnifies feelings of isolation, and that could cause the already growing suicide number among service members to spike. He says God Understands provides a unique human and divine connection.
Is this what we need to stave off that trend?
The way of ending veteran suicide is with Jesus.
In fact, experts say faith is what they call a protective factor. In other words, those who identify with all faiths are at lower risk for suicide. The God Understand campaign aims to reach out to at least 20,000 service members between Memorial Day and the 4th of July.
It's the new Superbook Bible app. It's packed with games, activities, and Superbook episodes that you can watch for free. Oh, no! There's trivia, a fun daily devotional, and answers to your Bible questions. Plus, an easy-to-understand Bible the whole family will enjoy. You can even create your own Superbook character. Ta-da! It's the new Superbook Bible app. Free downloads on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon.
From Washington, D.C., uncompromising stories, interviews, and analysis from veteran journalists David Brody.
Escalating fight.
Jenna Browder.
Chose his words carefully.
Ben Kennedy.
Plan to join him.
And Amber Strong.
For impeachment grows a little bit louder.
Bringing you the political news that matters.
We get out and tell the story of the progress that we're making in this country.
Watch Faith Nation, weeknights at 6 on the CBN News Channel.
We will move the American embassy to the eternal capital of the Jewish people, Jerusalem.
As the nations rage, you can stand with Israel.
History is being written, and I want to be a part of it.
Call 1-800-700-7000 and get to life.
This is our nature as a country.
Discover the untold story of how Israeli volunteers are changing the world.
We consider it our duty to reach out and help others around the world.
For a gift of $10 or more, you can own the acclaimed CBN documentary To Life.
To treat a human, no matter what he is, which religious he have, which color he is, this is what I'm doing.
Support Israel in their time of need. Get to Life, now available on DVD. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to cbn.com.
And I wish that other people throughout the world could see this side of Israel.
Well, finally tonight, it is a tradition called Flags In and has taken place since 1948. This week, the Old Guard laid more than 200,000 American flags at tombstones in Arlington National Cemetery. Each flag is inserted in the ground exactly 1 boot length in front of the headstone. The pandemic forced the cemetery to close to the public, but will reopen to family pass holders for Memorial Day weekend. Thanks for watching and have a great and safe weekend.